A lot of what James Bond represents is masculinity. The action, the dialogue, the story, and just the entire concept. It's about a dude who works as a spy, traveling the world while beating up bad guys and sleeping with women. And the franchise as a whole has had a complicated relationship with how they treat their female characters, so it's slightly surprising that the entire franchise is controlled by a woman. Enter Barbara Brocolli. Her and her half-brother Michael Wilson run Eon Productions, the studio that exclusively focuses on the James Bond franchise. It was handed down to them after their father, Alfred Cubby Brocolli, purchased the rights to James Bond for just $50,000, and then proceeded to produce over a dozen Bond films, including the very first one in 1962. You'll rarely see Barbara on any press junkets or interviews, which is ironic considering her and Michael make nearly every single decision for these films. From casting, dialogue choices, stunt sequencing, and even advertisement plans. And despite controlling one of the most popular franchises in film history, Barbara doesn't seem to be interested in doing much else. James Bond has practically been a family business since it started, and that may be its greatest strength. Since 1962, the James Bond movies have been consistently released every 2 to 5 years. And for the most part, they've always stayed pretty consistent with their tone and what they're trying to accomplish. Exciting set pieces and action, some cheesy dialogue choices, and the now practically infamous Bond woman. Something that they've luckily changed over time for the better. If you look at the longest running franchise in Hollywood, Godzilla, which has been passed around to over a dozen creators, you can end up with something like this. Mind you, it's not always bad seeing other people take on certain franchises. If Stan Lee was the only person who ever made anything Marvel, the entire film industry would be in a very different place. And Star Wars is the same way. If George Lucas hadn't sold the rights to Disney, it would most likely be a completely dead franchise by now. But for a franchise as classic and esteemed as James Bond, there's something that just seems to work about the control the Broccoli family have over the franchise. Maybe it's their dedication to put every single dollar on screen, or maybe it's them wanting to stay as accurate as possible to the original character, without being too offensive.
In Japan, men always come first, women come second.
I might just retire to here.
After all, Barbara Broccoli has explicitly stated that she doesn't want a female to play Bond, thinking he should always be a male. Despite this, I'll say, controversial opinion, and one I don't entirely agree with, it does go to show that the family in charge has a vision for James Bond, one that they believe in and want to keep.